Have you felt that devastating stab when you see the woman of your dreams talking with another man while you remain invisible as a ghost? That frustration that the soul cars you when you end up being eternally the comprehensive friend who listens to his problems about the idiot with whom he is coming out. If you recognize this sensation as your own emotional biography, then what you will discover now is not simply another method of the thousands you have tried. It is the brutal understanding of an ancestral secret code that only 3% of men know and apply with devastating mastery. It is so counterintuitive, so devastatingly effective, that it goes against each conditioning fiber that you received from childhood. Before continuing, leave that like below, because what I am to reveal, you challenge everything you thought about knowing about female desire. Once you cross this invisible line, once you see the bare truth, there is no possible turning. We are going to discover the forbidden method that Machiavelli would have used to conquer not only kingdoms, but the most inaccessible hearts. Get ready for revelation that will shake the foundations of everything you thought about women, about yourself, about the power that lies asleep inside you. Listen with the millimeter precision of a cardiovascular surgeon, because you are about to cross the veil of a colossal lie that has kept entire generations of men trapped in the most devastating emotional mediocrity. There is an ancestral dance between bodies and minds, a silent game where most follow obsolete rules while a few privileged know the secret movements that transform attraction into uncontrollable obsession. I do not talk about cheap or deception techniques as the charlatans teach on the internet, but of brutal understanding that everything, every advice, each strategy that taught you about conquering a woman's heart was a carefully constructed lie to keep you exactly where you are, in the emotional limbo of the romantic invisibility. Do you know that feeling that devours your entrails when you see the woman you want intimately with another, while you remain petrified in your helplessness, paralyzed by desire and terror? That frustration that corrodes your soul when you invariably end up being the kind friend whom he seeks to vent on the emotionally unavailable idiot. While pretending to understand, inside you will tend from silent rage, feeling how every word is a dagger that nails deeper. That humiliation of being eternally transparent for women who awaken your interest, as a ghost condemned to observe from the shadows while others live the life you secretly want. All that you feel, all that anguish that accompanies you on infinite nights of loneliness, ends today. Because what I will reveal is not a common method. It is secret code that approximately 3% of men dominates with results that challenge all logic. It is extremely rare to find who dominates these principles because they go against all social conditioning received as systematic brainwashing from childhood. The entire society, the romantic films, even your mother with better intentions, conspired without knowing it to teach you the wrong way. Program for emotional failure. Become an emotional consumer instead of creator of desire. Let's be brutally honest. You already tried everything. You bought expensive colonies thinking that the aroma would give you supernatural confidence. You tried to impress with expensive gifts believing that money buys genuine affection. You were the super attack that answers messages immediately, thinking that constant availability was synonymous with romantic interest. You tried to be the perfect gentleman, opening doors, paying dinners, being the most considered. You tried to be the funny with perfect jokes, the deep intellectual impressing with knowledge. The athlete, the musician, the artist, changing personalities such as desperate chameleon looking for magic formula. And where that titanic effort took you? Direct to the friends area, that limbo where good intentions rot and become absolute romantic invisibility. That prison where you are good enough to listen to problems, but not exciting enough to be a real romantic option. The brutal truth that nobody whispers because it is painful. You were meticulously programmed to fail since you were born. The system conspired to become an emotional provider, validator of female self, esteem in everything except the only thing that matters, a desirable man. They taught you to be good when you should learn to be irresistible, to give when you should learn to receive, to pursue when you had to learn to attract. They grammed to be plan B when you were born to be a unique option. They told you since childhood, be a gentle, educated, respectful. Do not attack these values, they are essential for decent human. But these alone qualities, isolated from more primitive and powerful elements, do not create that magnetic attraction that makes a woman not get rid of her mind, even if she tries desperately. Do you know what really creates that attraction that transcends logic? The tension that cuts air as a knife, the mystery that keeps her awake, spinning in bed, thinking about you, analyzing each word, every gesture, a little calculated emotional danger that activates primitive instincts scheduled from caverns, when survival depended on choosing the partner to protect and perpetuate stronger genes. Think of this reality that will exploit your head and change your perspective on women forever. Why is that guy who is not more handsome than you, nor does he have more money, nor is it smarter, that objectively should not have an advantage, manages to conquer them while you observe from the stands as a spectator of your life? Because he has unwavering confidence, a security that makes women gravitate around them as planets to the sun, without resisting their gravitational field. Understand something fundamental that you have not yet understood. Authentic seduction never occurs in the sure kingdom of rational logic. It does not develop in the predictable territory of rational conversations. It happens in pure, wild, primitive instinct, in its deepest subconscious, in ancestral layers of the reptilian brain where decisions are made in milliseconds before the conscious mind realizes that something transformative is happening. Do you really think that women consciously choose who falls in love? Do you think they feel the list of pros and cons like buying car? Of course not. That is Hollywood romantic fantasy. The reality is infinitely more primitive and powerful. It is his ancestral brain who decides, that primitive part of millions of years of relentless evolution, when survival depended on choosing the dominant male, the undisputed alpha, the supreme protector that guaranteed not only survival, but also prosperity and security for her and offspring. That ancient brain, a biological computer perfected by natural selection, does not care about beautiful flowers or faces romanticized in films. It is not moved with sweet gestures of cheap novels. He worries exclusively about unequivocal signs of real value, authentic social domain, and genuine capacity for protection and leadership. Instinctively seek the true alpha, who does not need to demonstrate that it is because it simply radiates it from each pore, every movement, every word, every calculated silence. The man who walks around the world as if it were his property, who speaks as if his words were decrees, who looks into his eyes without blinking because he has nothing to hide or demonstrate. Before you think I tell you to become insensitive or sociopath without emotions, calm down. It is not about being rude, disrespectful, or primitive negatively. It is something infinitely more sophisticated, elegant, powerful. To understand the ancestral dance between bodies and minds that occurs in each successful seductive interaction. Try to activate with millimeter precision the correct triggers in the exact moment, to play with mastery those emotional strings that resonate at specific frequencies that most men do not know that they exist in a spectrum of human attraction. It's like learning extremely complex musical instrument. It requires knowledge, practice, sensitivity, and deep understanding of laws that govern the music of desire. I spent a full decade studying this with scientific obsession, dedication of researcher, testing it on the real battlefield of human interactions. I analyzed each variable, every nuance, every microscopic detail. I studied men with natural success and those who systematically failed. I observed patterns, I looked for correlations, I developed theories and put them to the test until they refined them to perfection. What I discovered goes against everything that preach supposed experts in relationships that swarm selling sweet but ineffective advice. Tips designed to make you feel good, but keep you exactly where you are. Safe, predictable, harmless, and invisible for women you really want. Do you want to know the dirty secret? The forbidden secret that no guru will tell you why it would destroy your business model. Women do not want a man always available, who is there every time they snap fingers as a trained puppy waiting for a caress. They do not want the one who puts them on the pedestal as untouchable goddesses. They do not want to treat them as fragile porcelain dolls. They want a man who has real, abundant options. You don't need a man to feel complete. So PR, oftenly focused on its purpose that your presence is an extraordinary gift, does not desperate. They want the man who could have any woman but choose them, not out of necessity but by genuine desire. Paradoxical to the marrow, the less you need it emotionally, the more it will desire you with intensity that will surprise her. Authentic seduction never begins with simple hello that fades like stone falling into the lake without creating waves. It begins with deliberate and calculated rupture, Intentional fracture in the expected, electric spark in silence that awakens something sleeping for years, something primitive that did not know that it existed. Forget forever. Delete all your memory about traditional presentations. Forget that robotic "how are you" that dies when pronouncing, and that immediately classifies it as more interaction of the infinite pile of generic men who approach him every day with the same desperate and predictable energy. The first movement is never about being pleasant or harmless as an helpless puppy. It is something infinitely more powerful, to take absolute and indisputable control of the emotional rhythm from the first second. Establish with crystalline clarity that you are not one more of the infinite flock of predictable men. Imagine approaching with confidence of king in his kingdom, but instead of being predictable like all the lambs of the flock, you tell him something completely unexpected. You have face of someone who deeply hates surface conversations, but who secretly loves the controlled chaos and emotional storms. Maybe there is something in your eyes that tells me that you know how to keep dangerous secrets, and that you probably have a story that would make the majority of people. At that exact moment, something irreversibly changes in its facial expression. Its micro-expression is completely transformed. It pauses that lasts emotional eternity, flashes as recalibrating its internal system. His brain is activated as a high-performance engine that received premium octane fuel after years working with common gasoline. Why does this magic happen? Because you have brutally interrupted your automatic response pattern, that mental filter scheduled since years to automatically discard generic men who approach with the same desperate energy and predictable lines. At that moment, you are no longer one of them. You have completely differentiated yourself from background noise. You have managed to feel genuine, real intrigue, and curiosity is more powerful entry drug towards uncontrollable desire. It is first dominoes that falls into chain reaction that can take it from total indifference to complete obsession. This is where every solid foundation of attraction begins to harden until it becomes something unwavering, extraordinarily weird in modern world full of supplicant and needy men. True trust is not what you say with beautiful words or phrases rehearsed. It is what you do not need to say, because your presence shouts in a deafening silence. She perceives everything before you open mouth. Read your essence as an open book, as a detailed map of your soul. Microscopically observe how you feel. If you take up space with natural authority or shrink trying not to bother. Analyze how long you maintain visual contact without blinking, without apologizing for existing. Evaluate whether your presence fills room with natural magnetism or begins space as an emotional orphan looking for approval desperately. Authentic trust is silent as ancient cathedral. Walk without advertising. He speaks slowly as if he had all the time in the world and conversation was a gift he is giving. It moves with absolute certainty in each gesture, step, calculated movement. And above all, he does not fear loss, because he knows in the deep that his value as a man does not depend on external approval of any woman, however beautiful it is. This is a fundamental attitude that you need to embody until it becomes part of your emotional DNA. I don't need you to be happy, but I'm not afraid of you either. You're welcome to accompany me on my trip, but I'm not going to change my course to please you. This is a psychological posture that turns all head power dynamics, which completely invests the rules of the game. Once you learn and internalize it, she begins to qualify before you to demonstrate her value, instead of having to beg and demonstrate your worth before her like everyone else. Let me make it completely visual for you to understand in all magnitude. He finally thinks that you entered luxury cars showroom. There were two types of vendors. The first harassed you since you set foot in place. He stuck to you as a desperate shadow. I kept asking you, do you like it? Do you want to try it? What do you think? Can I do something to convince you? Irradia desperation so palpably that you could smell it. Instantly, you had a complete psychological advantage because your need dramatically decreased your value to your eyes. Now imagine another completely different seller. He greets you calmly professional. It shows you automobile with elegance and knowledge. Answer your questions with authority. Then he strategically retires silently. He does not chase you. He does not plead. It simply exists in his own confidence. He knows perfectly what he is offering. He knows that you will feel it if it is correct for you. He knows what product he speaks for himself. Suddenly, dynamics are completely invested. You feel need to show that you are worthy of the deal, that you can afford that level of quality. You begin to ask anxious questions, to justify your interest, to demonstrate your economic solvency. The table turned completely, and now he has all the power. It is exactly the same dynamic in seduction, but multiplied by 1,000. When you authentically demonstrate that your life is complete, rich in purpose, full of genuine joy, anchored in interior strength, abundant in real options without it, you automatically turn yourself into the prize, not a desperate hunter. Not an emotional beggar that prays for crumbs. This is the most counterintuitive of all the elements of the system. The seductive supreme art of giving way to the maximum point of emotional connection, when everything is flowing perfectly, when you feel that you could stay there forever. Not because you do not care deeply what happens, but because you understand one of the most devastating and powerful truths about female desire. Nostalgia creates uncontrollable obsession. The vacuum generates desperate longing that keeps it awake by nights spinning in bed, thinking of you. You know perfectly that magical moment, when conversation flows effortlessly as a crystalline river, when smiles arise naturally as flowers in spring, when she is completely present with you, absorbed in your presence, hanging from each word as if you were Oracle of Delphi, revealing secrets of the universe. When your body language opens completely, when you lean towards you, when your eyes shine with genuine interest. That is not time to move forward and squeeze until last drop of that magical connection as an emotional vampire. That is not time to cling desperately to that feeling as if it were the last thing you will experience in your life. That is precisely the time to leave, to strategically disappear as an elegant ghost, just when everything feels more alive, more electric, more loaded with infinite possibilities. Yes, exactly as you are listening. And I know that it sounds completely crazy from the perspective of traditional romantic logic. Higher emotional tension. Just when you feel more electric and loaded with promises, you simply say absolute calm and total control. I would love to stay longer because I am really enjoying this conversation, but I have important commitments to attend. Let's continue this at another time. And you leave without looking back as Lot's wife, without hesitation or for the second, without staying to see his reaction. As a ghost that leaves his brand indelible, actually. What happens later in your mind is not logical or rational. It is completely chemical, primitive, uncontrollable. His brain releases dopamine in industrial quantities, and then you disappear as smoke and wind. You just became a serial episode that ends at the most exciting moment, in a song that is cut rightly in a better part, in a book that closes exactly when plot becomes more interesting and addictive. Finally, think truly addictive series that you saw. I did not explain everything immediately. It did not solve all plots in the first episode. I left you with voracious hunger for more information, development, resolution. I kept you constantly delicious. That is exactly what you should turn. Not the 3-hour film that crawls until everyone loses interest and they begin to check phones, but the tense episode full of tension that leaves it breathless and telling days until next season. This means that you do not respond in the exact moment that she sends a message as if you were stuck to the phone waiting for her communication. Do not answer each call as if you were waiting next to the device 24 hours a day. You live your life fully. You move around your world as a man in an important mission. Man who has abundant options, clear purpose, self-gravity, objectives that transcend any individual woman. Because when she notices your absence, when she realizes that you are not available immediately, her emotional radar is activated so that she cannot consciously control. Your primitive mind begins to ask yourself obsessively, where is he? Who is he? Why hasn't he answered? Will he be with another woman? Will I have done something wrong? Did you lose interest? And at that time of delicious uncertainty, you are not only thinking about you rationally, you are feeling you emotionally with each fiber of your being. Now you are in your mind doing infinite loop, reproducing as a striped album. Your subconscious is reproducing your voice, obsessively rereading your last message as if it were secret code that needs to decipher to find clues about your true intentions. This is crucial change, exact moment where dynamic is completely invested. When she begins to pursue, not by conscious strategy, but by unsolved emotional tension, for desire for resolution, for primitive need to complete pattern you left incomplete. That is what most men never understand in all magnitude. They stay too long as guests who don't know when to leave. They respond too fast, eliminating all mystery. They meticulously eliminate all emotional tension, and in doing so, they kill desire in their crib before you have the opportunity to grow. Take initiative and scaling interaction when necessary. Without a doubt, paralyzing that makes you salt statue. This is a definitive moment of truth, where most men fail miserably, where all previous pillars built with such care are collapsed as a castle of cards. If you have no primitive value, ancestral courage to act with absolute decision when precise moment comes, as a window that opens for seconds, you created magnetic attraction that she can feel in her skin. You built emotional tension that cuts air as static electricity. You played detachment game with virtuous mastery. Now you need to act with the relentless determination of general conquering enemy territory, without a doubt, without hesitation, without asking permission to exist. And this is where fear appears in all its disgusting ugliness, the paralyzing fear of rejection, the fear of ruining everything built with such care and precision, the fear of being seen as invasive, inappropriate, or desperate. But let me whisper in the secret ear that will transform your perspective for all eternity. Women desperately want you to take initiative with male confidence. Fantasize in secret to man who knows exactly what he wants and is not afraid to go for it without apologizing for his masculinity, without apologizing for being a man. They dream of someone to take them by the hand with natural authority and guide them to unexplored territories of sensation and emotion. Hesitation, doubt, indecision kills more romantic opportunities than rejection itself. When you feel in your bones that time is correct, when each signal points towards progress, it acts without asking permission, without asking if you can as an insecure child. Read your body signs with precision of radar and advance with confidence of someone who perfectly understands silent language of female desire. It could be to take your hand while walking and feel if you resist or give yourself to your leadership. It could be to bring it closer during intimate conversation and observe if your body leans towards you or moves away. That kiss could be perfect when silence speaks stronger than 1,000 beautiful words, when tension is so thick that it can be cut with a knife. The audacity calculated, measured, intelligent, is what definitely separates real men from children who play to be men. It is what makes her mention her friends the next day with a smile she can't erase. It is what creates shocking memories that you cannot forget even if you want. Now I know exactly what you should be thinking, and we will clarify it once before your mind begins to sabotage you with moral doubts. This is not manipulation in the toxic and destructive sense of the word. It is not being a heartless patan or soul. True manipulation is when you lie deliberately, you cheat consciously, or do something directly against your will. What I am teaching you is the opposite. It is manipulation antithesis. It is about being completely authentic in your natural masculinity, of understanding what really creates an attraction in real world. Think with me with total honesty. When woman puts on makeup carefully, chooses outfit that enhances her figure, uses special perfume that knows what attracts, is she being manipulative? Of course not. It is presenting possible, using natural tools to become more attractive. That is exactly what you are doing, using natural psychological tools to arouse genuine attraction. It is not about deceiving anyone or creating completely false personality. It is about being a better version of yourself, the most authentic and powerful, the version that was always there, but that society taught you to suppress. And let me tell you something that few men know and what feminized society tries to hide you. Women, what they are seduced. They dream of that, read books about that, watch movies about that. They fantasize about that in private, but they want to be seduced by real, authentic, powerful man, not by unsafe type that apologizes for existing, not for a man who is afraid of his own male shadow. They want to feel that chill in stomach that they have not felt in years, that delicious tension in air that makes them feel alive, that game of looks that says more than 1,000 empty conversations about weather. And when you master secret code that I am revealing you, when you internalize it until it becomes part of your nature, you become that man. You become a guy that cannot be taken from the head, in mystery that keeps them awake thinking, in obsession that they cannot control. You have come here, which means that you are not as a majority of men who make up with emotional crumbs and mediocre lives. You have seen mirror without blinking. You have really felt crossing each of your comfortable excuses. Now comes time for the final scalpel. which definitely separates those who act from those who only dream awake in theory security. This knowledge that you have now recorded in your conscience is as ancient labyrinth full of secrets. You can be cowardly at entrance by memorizing maps to tiredness, analyzing each hall from distant safety, or you can enter with value and conquer each dark corridor until every territory is yours by the right of conquest. But keep this in mind as if your life depended on it. Who does not cross umbral, who is paralyzed in an impotent theory, who allows fear to keep it in a comfort zone, will pay more bitter price of all. You will see life from stands as an eternal spectator, while other men are intimately danced with women who only dared to desire. The giant wall that separated your old weak version of your true male power is already completely cracked. The cracks extend throughout their surface as a web. Only final blow is missing. You just have to definitely decide if you will be a man who commands without saying anything, that attracts without pursuing, that conquers withdrawing, or if you will continue to be the one that prays with each desperate gesture. Iron is read live in Forge of Destiny, or now forges with your own hands until it turns it into a sword that cuts all chains, or cools forever, and you lose transformation opportunity you are living in this exact moment. Every second that passes without action is second stolen to your future as a magnetic man. Every doubt that you allow to grow in your mind is cloven coffin of your sleeping potential. The world does not expect anyone. The women you want will not be single waiting for you to find value to act. They are out there at this time, knowing other men. Men who understand these laws. Men who do not doubt when they arrive. Men who take what they want without asking permission. While you analyze and procrastinate insecurity of your comfort zone, they are creating indelible memories, building devastating connections, living life that you secretly want but do not dare to take. This is not game or superficial entertainment. It is silent war for your masculine soul, for your destiny as a man, for the right to live life that you deserve instead of settlement with emotional leftovers that have been serving you so far. Each woman who goes through your life without awakening her genuine desire is testimony of your cowardice, evidence that you chose mediocre security over risky greatness. Every night you go to bed only when you could be with a woman that loves you is a price that you pay for your indecision. The code is in front of you, completely revealed. The tools are in your hands. The territory map is drawn with millimeter precision. Only one thing is missing, that you decide to cross invisible line between whom you were and who can become, between man who observes life from window and man who lives it with devastating intensity, between eternal spectator and protagonist of his own existence. The choice is yours and only yours. No one can take it for you. No one can save yourself. If you have felt every word as a really dagger through your deepest defenses, if you recognize that you can no longer be an invisible ghost in life of women you want, if you know that something fundamental must change today, then leave your war signal in comments. Comment exactly this: I command without saying anything. Because those who get to this point and do not act are not devoured by a cruel world. They are devoured from the inside by shame that they are found as acid, because of the what would have happened if that pursues them as a ghost on every night of solitude, for repentance that whispers poison in his ears until the end of his days. If you supported up here without fleeing, if you resisted temptation to close and return to comfort of ignorance, then you endure what comes next. True work just begins. The real transformation happens in silence of action, not in words of words. The labyrinth awaits you with its deepest secrets, with its darkest runners, where only the brave ventures. See you in the next territory. In silence, your decision will already be taken. The scalpel has cut. The wound is open. Now it only remains to decide, do you heal as always, or Renacious is who you are destined to be?